Everything must change.
Straight Out University, Big John is the host with the plan. Time to wake the sleeping giant that lives in every man. Forget the ordinary path, that blueprint's outdated. We building legends here, totally self-created. You need the 4 pillars for total fulfillment. Money, muscle, frame in the game, that's the mission. Master your finances, forge your body and mindset. Level up your influence, make them all respect. Yet, stop settling for a life that's just a faded dream. Time to build your empire, make your own world shine supreme. This is the goal, let's get to work. Yeah, Straight Out University.
All right. Just trying to figure out what the hell's going on now. All right. Wow. Another technical glitch to start with. What do we do? What can I say, man? I am not technically sound. Well, Cuba, mi gente. Welcome to Straight Out University. I apologize for the technical difficulty, but as you know already, I don't know shit about computer stuff. So I have problems with that. And it is going to be a tough one if we have any problems here today. Check it out. Today's topic is about what are our roles in relationship between men and women, and also what do we expect from those roles. I have a special guest on, and let me bring her up. Michelle, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Michelle June. I am a business owner by day, a singer-songwriter by life. I'm a wife and a mother of 2. So thank you for having me on. Excited to chat with you.
All right. I'm sorry. I tell you, this technical difficulty stuff. I got buttons here that I don't know what the hell they're for. So I'm just pressing things at this point.
That one worked. So.
Right? This one actually worked. So you know what? I guess it's all right so far.
That one did the thing. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to come on this Sunday. And let's jump into this as far as the topic.
Absolutely.
Our role, my thought process is that the roles that we have in relationships as men and women follow a pattern of centuries of doing this. And men's roles are provider, protector. We also have in Straight Out University, we have this thing that I say, which is money, muscle, game, and frame. Now, this is important for the development of men. And I speak to a lot of young men and men in how to develop these 4 pillars. Now, one of the strongest ones for men is a frame, a strong frame. In developing that frame, there's a lot of things about ourselves that we have to develop. Men are not born, men are created. And we're basically, how I say, we're forged through fire. The things that we go through, the ups and downs, the heartbreaks, the letdowns, and all of the things that create us as stronger men are the things that we have to go through to become better men. A lot of people say, especially now, I think that there's a lot of a little bit of coddling and cuddling by a lot of people of men. And I think that today's men are a little bit softer. Well, I know they're a little bit softer compared to the men of the past, but we do have things that have worked through in modernity today. A lot of men that have these traits of being a strong person, a strong personality, and understanding how their strength as far as frame dictate who you are and what you're about. As far as a man, but it also dictates what you can do as a man in family and relationships, personal and, friendships abroad, business, and so forth. It dictates those things of who we are and how we move through the world. So I think in relationships, it's pertinent, and it's very necessary for a man to understand who he is, what his self-worth is. And I do encourage men to not put up with, for lack of a better way of saying it, put up with people's fuckery. And that includes women. Don't put up with any fuckery. Don't get shit tested. That you have to be able to be a better person, because a woman is vying for your last name. You're not vying for hers. But in order for a woman to want your last name, you have to make sure that your name is worth having. Your last name is worth having. So I encourage men to be better, understanding and having a good process and having a good moral compass of understanding who they are and what they're willing to accept. Because once you're on your path as a man, a woman that you choose that you want to pursue, that woman has to make sure that that's the path she also wants to follow behind. I'm not saying that she's under your thumb or anything like that, and people get that mixed up. I'm just saying a good woman wants a good man in her life to move forward, and in order to do that, you have to learn how to be a good man. So that's my thought process on the man side. On the woman's side, I'm gonna say it the way I'm gonna say it. And I want to put out a shout out to my guy Albert, tuning into us. I believe that a woman has to want to follow a man's path. Now, this man is going to be on this particular path, whatever it may be, whatever his career is, he needs to be on a strong path, and he needs to develop that and cultivate that. And that usually doesn't happen in their early 20s or even mid 20s. Sometimes that usually happens. There's late bloomers out there, but sometimes that happens between the 30s and the mid 30s is where a man's really on his path. And once he gets there, and he's established his castle, then when he wants to pursue a woman, that's where he sits there and says, okay, well, I want a woman who is this way, who's a family orientated, a goal orientated that way, and who is a person who can help me on my path. Not to say that if she's doing something, that I'm going to prevent her from doing it. Look, you want a side hustle, you want business, okay, I'm good with that, but we got to remember the course is the direction in which I'm going. Now, that's how I see relationships. If I can get your take, what do you think? Whichever side you want to start with first, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's nice to teach men all of these things. Men certainly need to learn them, but most of what you're saying is not isolated simply to men. Being a better person or being better than who you were yesterday is for both men and women. And when I think about choosing a man who has a path that I'm wanting to follow, yes, because I probably couldn't see myself marrying a guy who was a rock star, right? Probably because I want to be a rock star. So it just wouldn't work. It's just, we can't do that. So I think it's important for each other to choose people who are on paths that fit and work well together. When you're on different paths and it's not going to work, you're only asking for trouble. So I hear all of what you're saying and I agree, but only in such a way that it's not isolated to men. It's actually more so across the board. But I do hear you when you say that there's an expectation of men to be like stronger, a better provider, or this or that. I do understand that. I think that it's still very true and is prevalent and present in this society, but I do think it's societal. I don't think that you have to have those beliefs. That's totally up to you.
And here's the part that I really I take umbrage with sometimes, which is when I hear women talk about like, well, it's not just specifically, primarily for men. No, it's always primarily for men, really, for this reason.
Untrue.
Well, let me ask you this, if we can dive into this a little bit. When you're looking at a man, a potential man, and I'm talking about in generalities, women, and you've gone through it before, you've gone through the vetting system before. When a woman is looking at a man, she's not looking at a man such as a man who was just specific to her, because all women are looking for the same kind of men. It's
absolutely incorrect. Absolutely, utterly untrue.
Tell me how I'm incorrect.
Because okay, first of all, I've dated different types of men, and not everybody's the same. There is the guys who like the gym, the money, the social status. That is one type of men. There's also other men who are introspective. They're not They don't want to be leaders, so to speak. That doesn't mean they can't think for themselves. They might just communicate differently. There are different types of men, just like there's different types of women. You got to be mindful of who you are and know what fits with that and know what you can handle or what you can't handle so that you're able to find a partner that works for that. But it's all men are not the same and all women do not want the same things. No way. I don't look at men in one box and you seem to kind of put them there, which is just an interesting thought and theory to me because I meet women who are very motivated by money and that's important to them. So they want to find a guy who makes a lot of money. For me, I was very interested in a man who didn't mind that I made my own, that I have my own opinion, that I can think for myself, that I don't need to rely on you. If that is important to you, we won't work out, right? That's just common knowledge. That's just common sense. It wouldn't work. So I have to find somebody whose personality suits mine because everybody is different. If everybody was the same, it wouldn't be a problem. We would just match so very easily, but that's just not the case.
Well, and that's a nice, pretty way of saying that, you're looking for a specific type of person. Now, men are put in a box. Men are very simple creatures. We're not complicated. Okay. We all have, basic things. Now, here's the basic thing that I see women having, and this is the commonality in which we work under. Do you prefer a man who's taller than you? Do you think women in general prefer a man that's taller than them?
That seems to be a stereotype, yes.
Well, I mean, it's what we go off of. Okay. I mean, now these are statistics and I'm going to speak in generality, but these are statistics that are generally accepted as the majority of people, of women, prefer a man who's taller than them. They prefer a man who's stronger than them. They prefer a man who's more competent. A man who
I think stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason because they're generally true. Sure. They're just not always true.
This doesn't make any sense. Look,
Tell me. What?
Because if a man is confident, competent, and that is what women prefer, a man that's taller, stronger, who's able to provide, who's able to protect, that's the general basis of all men. And
That's
all
one
women,
version of it. Yeah.
well, are there women who love a man that they can dominate? Of course. But see, we're speaking in generalities. I'm not talking about the outlier. I'm talking about in generality. The majority of women prefer a man who makes more money than them, who can provide for them and protect them, and they can feel secure around. And there's other metrics that come with that. And the majority of women feel that way. So to say that we're going to talk about the niche group of people who don't see that, because like I said,
I wouldn't call it niche either. I wouldn't even call it niche. I would call it everybody. Everybody wants, right? This is not isolated to relationships. Everybody wants money in general. That's a general thing across the board. Everybody would like to be rich. Everybody would like to be successful. Everybody wants their marriage to be successful. These are all just things that are human nature that people like and want and love. Of course, that's going to be the popular opinion in their desires in another person. Those are, of course, great things to desire. So it's not rocket science. It's just not a rule of thumb to live by. And I don't think it's anything we should go around making posters about. This is what a guy needs to be. It's just, yes, everybody wants those things in life.
Well,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Do you think that it's a minority or a majority of people who don't see it that way?
See it what way?
That if we talk in generalities, and I say that women prefer a man who's taller, stronger, more competent, earns more money than them, is more well-versed in the world than they are. Do you believe that that's a minority or a majority?
I don't really think about it too often. I think it's annoying that people want to constantly put women or men in boxes and these rules and such. People want what they're attracted to.
Well, if we're honest, and this is a thing that's important, is if we're honest about what we're talking about, women in general see it that way. Now, the statistics show that through dating apps and so forth, and who they're looking for as a person that that they're interested in a relationship. Now, you're not going to tell me, I mean, is it true that a woman would date a bum? Yeah, there are women out there that will date bummy guys. Okay. But that's not the majority. That's a minority of people. So it is a niche. I know that, my ideal of a niche is the people that have a small percentage. Now, the overwhelming percentage of women see men this way. And that's where I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people. Now, if you're different, that's you're part of a group of people that see it that way. That's not the majority. It's a minority of people. So, just like a left-handed, things that are left-handed. Not everything is left-handed. So, we do what the consensus is, which is a majority of people are looking at things as I'm going to do things from the right-handed way. So we develop everything for right-handed people, but are there lefties that do exist? Of course they do, and we acknowledge them, but we don't make gloves for six-fingered people. We only make gloves for five-fingered people. But do they exist? Of course they do. So that's the part that I'm talking about. I'm talking about in generalities of the norm in which we look at relationships.
Right. But you just said that you're not talking to somebody who maybe has an opinion of the general. And you're correct. You're talking to me. So this is just my opinion. And if you want me to agree with you on what general means, I agree that generally that's an idea. Yeah, generally it is. But I don't think that if people don't come in and start talking about why it doesn't work, because I think many women have picked men for their money and gotten screwed over. I think women have picked men for success and gotten screwed over. I think women have picked men based on how they looked and gotten screwed over, because if that worked, we wouldn't be here. So I think it takes somebody like me who's in the minority to speak up and say, maybe we should be looking elsewhere. Maybe we should be doing something different, because that's who I am. And I think that people can find happiness by going against the norm. Because again, if this worked, we wouldn't have such high divorce rates and things like. We wouldn't even, I don't think, be having this conversation, because if it worked so well, it wouldn't be a discontentment.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up divorce rates, because that's an interesting subject for the simple reasons that the statistics show that 50% of marriages end in divorce, which is initiated by women at 70% and educated women. 80%. Yeah, no, 70% and educated women at 80%. So, and a lot of those divorces are not based on and I know we always talk about these things. Well, did he cheat on her? Did he this? Did he that? There's statistics for all of these things. And the majority of the reason for divorces is, God, I have trouble with this word, irreconcilable differences. Now, that just means feelings. I felt like he didn't love me anymore. I felt like there wasn't the passion anymore. He was a workaholic and all of these little things. But, when we look at those things as divorce metrics, they don't really come up to real reasons why these divorces should have happened, other than, well, I feel that this marriage didn't pan out because I feel this way. Not that there was any real metric of, he did anything to me, he was physical, whatever, although those do exist, but it's a small subset. It's not a large reason why. So like I said, when we talk about these divorces, I find it interesting that women have this thought process like, okay, I'm in it for duty, but they don't think about it that way, because they feel that their happiness is most important in a relationship. And I don't feel that way when I look at it and I talk to women and I ask the simple question of whose happiness is most important in a relationship, the man or the woman's? And overwhelmingly, women keep telling me, well, mine. If I'm not happy in the relationship, how is this going to move forward? And I don't understand that, see, because it's not it's a selfish response. And I don't see marriage. For me, marriage is, I'm going to look at my marriage as a selfless act. I put my wife and my children before me, and she sees it the same way. So that's why.
Oh boy.
You the technical difficulties with me in this. Sorry about that. And anybody, again, this is a technical glitch. I have no idea. I'm not part of the matrix. I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing.
But it's a water break.
Right. Everybody, quick water break. But as I was saying, I look at marriages and relationships as a selfless thing and not should be looked at as a selfish
And I
thing.
think a lot of people miss that. They really, really do. But quite honestly, I try, and I have so much improvement to do as a wife. Trust me. But I try to keep myself thinking that if I wake up every single day and I'm looking for my kids first and my husband first, and everybody in our household is doing the same thing, there's no way that we can fail if we are all taking care of each other. I think so easily it becomes almost a tit for tat or combative, or it can become, excuse me, but instead of working together, which blows my mind a little bit because we get so much more done together than we ever could separately, or working against each other, or trying to decide who's more important, whose emotions matter more. They both do. But if we're working together, man, we're unstoppable. We really, really are. The only reason I've been able to start my business and be a singer is because my husband has my back. That's the only reason. We have to do it together, so it's very important to me. But it also took me a really long time to learn. I was also very emotionally immature, and I would have told you probably 2-3 years ago I was most important in the marriage too. So I think it just takes a lot of growth too. It's hard to be in marriages and relationships, and yeah, selfless is a great word for that.
Do you think, and thank you for saying that, because there's I find that when people are older, obviously, we have a better perspective of things. But I think part of the problem is that we constantly hear, and we're constantly telling young men on how to treat women and how to treat girls. You're supposed to be nice, but we never teach women how to treat men and what to look for. Like, I'm very big on vetting who you're going to be with and who you are. And I tell young men this: look, you should concentrate. I mean, I'm not saying don't have a girlfriend, but I am saying that you should concentrate on your job. You should concentrate on building your wealth, and you should learn some things in life, early. When you got your first job, start putting money away for retirement. When you got your first job, you should learn what an interest rate is, and learn how there's good debt and bad debt, and learn how to be a stronger man and understanding your self-worth, understanding what you're going to put up with, the fuckery that you will not put up with. There are things in life that, like, guys will tell me, and here's, a 26-year-old guy I know, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm having some problems with my girlfriend and this and that. And I'm all like, and he's my barber, he's a barber that I had. And, this young man is making decent money as a barber. And he's like, yeah, she won't, when she texts me like, 3-4 hours too late and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, that's you putting up with other people's fuckery. And I said, look she's on that phone. She knows when a message comes through. She's on that shit. She's just taking her time and shit testing.
1,000%.
She's doing something. She's shit testing you, and what you should do is just not put up with it. Look, if she says, if you want to go out on a date at 7:00 on Saturday, and she goes, yeah, give me a call, or I'll call you. Okay, call me before 7 to see if we want to hook up. Cool. And here it is. It's 6:55. Leave, go somewhere else, do something else with somebody else. And that's what I tell you. Don't wait, because now she is not being respectful of your time, and she is not, but that's what she is accustomed to doing. And it's like, we're not letting women know. And I think it's the obligation, like for me as a man, it's my obligation to help other men be better men. Why don't women do the same thing with other women? Because they don't tell them, look, this is fuckery you're doing, and you shouldn't do it. And I have this thought: why do women promote and encourage other women to be mediocre? Why is that? Tell me.
Well, let me tell you something, Big John, because I love you.
Okay, I feel that
we do tell each other, okay? But a lot of the times I just think we don't care. And let me tell you why. Because it always flabbergasts me. I've watched your shows before on YouTube. You had this other one with a gal that I really loved. I'm blanking on her name right now, but hello. But you talked about your frame, which I really liked. I know what you mean by that. I really like it. I like the idea. But you said this in there too, that we don't teach women how to take care of men. And for me, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind that you could even say that, because at such a young age, that's all I was taught, was about taking care of men and the household and staying home and being the homemaker. And do I know how to cook? And do I know how to braid? And how am I going to have as many kids as possible? By the, like, that's all that was ever in my mind. And then I came to be of age, you know, to have relationships, only to find out that y'all are assholes. Okay. And I understand that it could be my age group at the time, right? I was dating people my age, 20, 25. Yes, we're all immature, right? So you get hurt, you get hurt, you get hurt, you get hurt. And then I think maybe we overcorrected a little bit collectively as a group. It's just, you know, I think at some point we all got a little frustrated and said, you know what, if this is how it's going to be, watch us do it too, because it's just happened for so long. And I don't think it makes it right. I will tell my girlfriends when they're doing wrong, okay? I promise you. But I do think that we all have to do that for us, for each other. You have to hold your friends accountable. Like, and I firmly believe you are who you are surrounded by. So if you're not leveling up and you're not, you know, you're doing shady stuff, I disagree with that highly. Let me make that perfectly clear.
You know, often when I talk to young women and women in general, I can tell sometimes, just based on their answers to some of my questions, whether or not they grew up in a household with both mother and father, or just with a father, or just with the mother, based on their answers. And
Uh-huh.
and I usually tell women, there was a young lady that I used to work with, and she used to tell me, like, you know, man, men are trash. Men are just trash. And I sat there and I would laugh, and I didn't say a whole lot, and which is hard to believe. But I didn't say much. But finally, she asked me the question. She's all, you know, John, let me ask you something. You know, why are all men just trash? And I said, you know, do you want me to tell you the comforting lie, or do you want me to tell you the truth? And she's like, no, tell me the truth. And I said, okay. And this is the part that I always try to tell women, that it's hard to handle the truth. I said, you know, if you don't want a trash man, then why are you picking in the trash? Why
Yeah,
are you
I agree
not
with you.
picking a good man? Well, what do
Yes.
you mean I'm not picking a good man? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
if all you have is trash, it's because you're picking from a trash can. And so I told her, well, let me ask you a question. What kind of man do you want? Like, what does your man look like in your mind? What does a man look like? What does that guy look like? And she's all, well, he has to make good money, and he has to be this, and he has to have certain morals. And okay. So just basically a guy. I got it. But where does a man who makes that kind of money, what kind of job does he do? And she's all, well, what? And I said, look, well, what does he do? If you're saying that a man needs to make about $150,000 a year, what does that job look like? And who does that job? And she's all like, well, I don't know. I said, because you don't know shit about men. That's why. You've never actually had to pursue a man. The man you want isn't looking for you. And he's probably not looking for you because, as she put it in her own words, I have resting bitch face. And I was like, what the hell is that? And she says, well, I just have, I have a face that's just, I look like I'm pissed all the time. I said, yeah, well, how's that worked out for you so far? Have you always had that? And she goes, yeah. And I go, and how's that worked out for you? You have 2 kids, 2 different baby daddies. And how's that worked out for you? How's that resting bitch face worked out? And she's all like, well, what are you telling me? And I said, well, you're part of the problem. You see, the guy that you want isn't looking for you because he ain't looking for that kind of woman. And who's telling you to be this way? Because obviously it's not working, because she was 30. I want to say she was 32 at the time. And I said, you have to understand, your market is very small now. That man, that status man, that man is not looking for you. You're looking for a different set of men. Your whole complexity of dating market has changed. You went from the ocean, when you had a lot of, they call it sexual market value. In your earlier youth years, before you had kids, you had the ocean to fish from. You could have gone for a certain kind of fish, like what you were talking about earlier. There's some women that look at certain things as importance, money, status, and so forth. So you had the opportunity for that. And then you shrank your pool from the ocean to a
Meh.
river,
I think
relate.
most men in their 20s are crappy anyways, but I hear what you're saying. I don't think all is lost when a woman turns 30 or 40 or anything like that. If anything, I think you have a better understanding of what type of man that you want. I think I was picking terribly at a younger age because, and I grew up in a two-parent home, but I don't believe my parents were emotionally intelligent enough to teach me how to make a decision or the right people to be around or things of the like. So that I took that with me into adulthood. And it took me a really long time to learn what healthy looks like. And I think a lot of women are in similar situations.
Well, I can somewhat agree with. I can tell from some of your answers that you had a two-parent household, because some of the things, the core bases of those things, are still resonating with what you say, as far as relationships and backing each other up and being able to understand one another. I mean, and yes, you're right. This is why I tell men from 18 to about 28, they should be concentrating on where they're going with their careers and what they want to set themselves free. Because a man who's 18
Yeah.
to 28 is useless to a woman. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that you should be concentrating on how to be a better man and how to understand what providing and understand what protection means and understand you as a man and what you're trying to build. Because let me tell you something, you can't, when one of my sons got married, I told him, well, what do you want to get married? And he's like, yeah, I want to get married. And I said, well, what do you have to offer? And he was in college at the time. And I said, what do you have to offer? Because, you can't pay the bills with hopes and dreams. You can't eat with love. Okay. You need to be able to provide. And if you love her, then work on providing something for her, because that's what's most important. And, people go through these things, and look, I can only give advice, and it's up to you. If you ask me for the advice, I'm going to tell you what you may not want to hear, but I'm going to tell
Absolutely.
you. But that's what a good parent does for their children. And
Yes.
but you're going to make the decision. So if I tell you,
Right.
as a parent, if a dad tells his daughter that guy's shit, and you're like, but I love him so much, and then you go and you wind up, being with that person and it doesn't work out. Well, that was your choice. That's your fuck up, not anybody else, because you were told. And a lot of women tend to run through the red flags because they're in love. Because I say this thing, women fall in love with what they hear, and men fall in love with what they see. But I always tell women, there was this young lady that I had met, 20, I want to say she was 26. 26. This is coworkers I had at work. Okay, so you got to realize a lot of young teachers and a lot of.
Oh, we went off again.
So I'm back again. Jesus Christ, this thing keeps dropping out on me. So she had just broken up from a long time marriage. She was in the marriage from 20 to 26. And I was all like, whoa, okay. And she's like, yeah. And he kind of just, he's moved on. They broke up. He moved on. He wound up meeting somebody right away. And she kind of had some feelings about that. And I just sat there and said, okay, well, let me ask you something. I said, why did you take so long? I mean, to make a commitment toward anything. I mean, 6 years? What? Geez, how long are you going to go? Either you're committed or you're not committed. And are you heading toward marriage or you're not heading toward marriage? And, you have a finite amount of time. Women have a finite amount of time that they, at some point, it's not fair. Like if you get married at 30, how many kids are you really going to have? And don't get me wrong. I mean, my mom had me when she was 35. I mean, and that's late. And but nowadays there's so many more complications to pregnancy after the age of 30. So obviously, for women, it's almost a cruel act, because men are at their peak later in their life with their careers and so forth, and women are at their peak earlier in their life. So we cross each other this way from the biological standpoint for women, but for the provider protector for men, we're so late. We're in our 30s to 35 for some men.
Which is oddly enough, John, like a thought in theory I've been working on. I haven't thought it through already, because look at my life per se, but like right, I had my kids early. But now in my older age, whatever you want to call it, being able to work on my dreams and my music and running a business, I am doing it 10,000% differently than I ever would have done back then. That even though I'm a late bloomer, there's something that is really special and so much better about it. But you just reminded me of that. Keep going.
No,
Sorry.
you know, and I'm all for people doing whatever it is that they feel that they want to do. But if I had a daughter, you know, I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter and she asked me, oh, well, I have like, well, we have like an adopted daughter. It's a young lady that I started coaching boxing for when she was 18 years old, and she is just like our daughter. I swear, she fights with both our boys like brother and sister. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you know, if I have to give advice, my advice is always to say, look, find a man, vet a man that is going to fit in what you want as a life. And for this young lady who had gotten, you know, she was with this man for 6 years and then he dumped her. She wound up meeting another man. And I told her, you gotta, first off, you know, you gotta deal with the heartache of all that shit that's gonna go down and, you know, the trauma and all the other bullshit that goes with it. But she wound up meeting a guy, and this is about a year and a half later. She wound up meeting a guy, and, you know, uncles knew who he was, and he was a solid person from what she could see from the outside. And she says, John, you know, he likes me. What do I do? And I said, well, here's the most important thing you can do. Listen to what he says, but watch what he does. Because men are not chameleons, okay? We are exactly who we are. We can say whatever. We can whisper the sweet nothings into your ear. But we're always going to act to who we are. We can't change that. That's just who we are. So I told her, listen to what he says and watch what he does. If he tells you, oh yeah, I don't drink, and then you see him, you know, pissed drunk, well, obviously he ain't that guy. Right. Yeah. He ain't that guy. And then she had asked me a question like, John, can a bad man be a good man? Change and be, you know, or no, how she asked me, this is how she asked me the question. Can a man change? And I was like, I said, give me clarity. What are you saying? And she says, a man who either has vices, a man who has habits, can they change? And I said, no. Here's the reason why. If he's a bad man and he changes for the better, he's just going to be a better bad man. That's what he's going to be. Are there outliers? Yeah, but they're so far in between that it's not worth mentioning. Look at a guy who is always in trouble with the law. He can be straight for a little bit, but then he goes right back to his old bullshit because that's who he is. Now, can a good man be a better man? Yeah, they're just going to be a better good man. That's just what it is. But you got to find the good man. And that's for you to listen to either, if you don't have other men in your circles, well, like, you know, there's a lot of women that I've met who were raised by single mothers, and they perpetuate the same thing. Grandma was single.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get footing. And
yes.
And it's hard to understand. But see, that's why you need to talk to your guy cousins. That's where you need to talk, because there's no guy cousin who you're going to introduce a boyfriend to who's going to be like, oh yeah, that guy's probably smacking up my cousin, and I'm gonna go ahead and let him. No, he's going to be like, that guy's shit. Don't trust that guy. Just like a woman, okay? If your son or your brother or your uncle brings home a girl to introduce to everybody, and for lack of a better word, this bitch is a hoe, and she shows hoe tendencies, you're going to be the first one to go like, no, don't. She's off, right? She's off the chain. Don't. See, but that's the advice we're going to wind up giving. And that's why I try to tell women, well, look, you have to know who you're going for, right? Like you said something earlier, and I like what you said, which is we all have preferences, which is fine. But I think that we have a lot of the same preferences for this reason. 90% of women are looking for 10% of men. Now, are there outliers in that? Yes. And you would just give me a quick second to explain and tell me whether you agree. Women in general want certain things. They want a man who's, like I said, taller than them. They want a man who's this, makes more money, confident, and we've already went over those things. Now, a good portion of women are looking for those kind of men, and those kind of men are not common, especially making that kind of money, that kind of height, that kind of, physical stature, that kind of, status, that, there's not very many men that fall into those categories. $150,000 a year is not the majority of men. It's a minority of men. So when we have those metrics for dating, and those are part of the requirements for women, or what women require of men, then those men have a host of women that they're looking for. So when you're doing that, why, as a man, would I look at, and I'm not saying you, I'm just using the word you, why would a man look at you at 32 with two different baby daddies when I could get a 22-year-old you with no kids? And that's what I'm.
If that's what you want, that's what you should do, for sure.
And this is where I find that women can't handle the truth on this subject, which is, well, why would they want a man who, or why would a man want a woman who doesn't push back? Why wouldn't a man want a woman who challenges him? And I'm like, well, what fucking man is that? I ain't never met that guy before. Where's that guy at? I ain't never met a man who says, oh yeah, I love it when I go home and my lady's arguing with me. I never met a man like that. I just want to go home and I want a little bit of peace. I want my big piece of chicken. And I just kind of want to decompress, because today I almost stabbed 3 motherfuckers because they're acting out of pocket. And that's my world. But I don't try to bring that home to you. Do you see, or do you hear how that can be detrimental to us in a relationship when women say that that's what men want, when that's not what men want?
What's what men want?
Women say that men want women who push back on them.
I don't think women think that.
Yeah, it's a really weird.
I think it's a common thing for well, I don't think anybody wants to be pushed back on, right? I mean, again, goes back to, it should be more of a partnership. But I know my husband's blind spots. I know there are certain things that tick him off, where if he's that pissed, he's not thinking straight. And so I got to come in and try to get him into a place where he's going to make a little bit of a better decision.
Right.
That's a little bit different. But I mean, pushing back, that just to me sounds like an argument. But I do want to challenge you on this one thing, because you say things like, you're 33 years old, 2 baby daddies. Who's going to want to look, that man's not looking for you, but I'm married to that man, so a man was looking for me. So that confuses me. And that tells me that what you're saying is not true, because I lived it. I have 2 baby daddies. My kids are not my husband's. I was 34 years old when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
And he entirely offered for me to quit my job so that I could go and pursue my dreams, and he will pay for everything so that I could go and do that. So you say it doesn't exist, but I'm telling you it does. And so I don't like when people say that. I guess it kind of irritates me, because I think they are, yes, generalities, norms, or whatever you'd like to call it, but not impossible. Absolutely not impossible. You can find a smart, good man who wants to take care of you. I wasn't looking for a man who was making $150K. I was making well enough on my own. It just happened that way, So I think it's an interesting take. I do think that you have so much here with teaching men or boys all of these wonderful traits, but it could be so much bigger than that. Teaching children this stuff at a young age, or young adults or youth, all of it is great ideas, but it's not isolated to men by any means.
Right. No, I don't have the problem in saying that there are outliers. Now, because people win the lottery, right? We all know people, or we all know of people who have won the lottery, but we may not know somebody who's won the lottery, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I know one person who won the lottery, and they won millions in a lottery. But that's not common. That's not a common thing to happen. Does it happen? Yeah. Right. And I know Albert, my man.
Thank you, Albert. That was really nice. I liked that. Okay.
Although Albert is absolutely full of shit about men's brains not developing till 30, 32. 25, and yet scientists have proved that after 25 it deteriorates.
I don't know. I like Albert. Let's get him on.
Albert, read up on it a little bit, my man, before you open your mouth and start talking shit. And I love Albert. Albert is my childhood friend who I love and admire, man. That guy is awesome.
He's been watching this whole time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Albert is an amazing person. And I'll be honest with you, just to give a little background between me and Albert off topic. We grew up in a very poverty-stricken area in Oxnard in the 805. We grew up in that area, and for us to look at one another and see that we're both, doing well, that's a testament of who our mothers were, and who we are as men and how we've developed and grown up. And I also grew up in a household full of women, and my mom was a single mother and just really hammered me about how men should act and be and understand who we are. And,
is that why your passion is so strong about men being upstanding people?
Well, definitely, because look, without men being static in who we are as men, the world fails, because we have to be the ones that get out and do the jobs and the hard work and dredge in this world in order to continue to provide for society in the way it is currently. Because without us, this thing fails. We can't be soft, and we have to teach the next generation how to be better men, and understanding today, for those working in those positions that are so dangerous that there's only a limited few people that can do those jobs. Those people, those men get up every single day and go to a job that there's a high risk that they're not coming home. And you know what? I'm thankful to those people, because I myself, as a man, are dependent on other men to do those kinds of jobs. I swear, you would think that there was a rainstorm out here for as many interruptions as we're getting. But
this is funny, but it's okay.
Yeah, I know this thing. Next time if we go on again next time, I'm doing it pre-recorded and out that way. This interruption shit's killing me. But that's part of my problem with how we look at women today. And I know some women that are very professional in their jobs. They're like counselors and they work with young ladies, but they promote things in a way that it's like, oh, don't worry about a guy. Don't get with a guy early in life, concentrate on your career and do this and do that. And it's like, there's no alternative for them. Like, for example, if a 17-year-old girl who's going to graduate from high school goes to the counselor and says, hey, me and my boyfriend, we've been together since we were freshmen and we're looking at getting married and I want to start a family. They don't encourage that at all. They just talk about the negative of it. And it's like, I don't think that there's all negative. I do think that I don't think that you should have kids so early, but I don't think that you should push it off toward the ultimate end, where you're graduating from college and then putting all your efforts into a career. You do 5-6 years in your career and all of a sudden you're 31 years old and now you're thinking about starting a family. I don't know. I don't think that that's a way to, I don't think that that's proper to tell a woman that she should wait until her 30s, because what happens if she gets there and she can't have as many kids, or she can't have a kid?
But I think you just killed it when you said, I think it's not proper to tell a woman. You got to start right there. Stop right there. Because you seem to be advocating for doing it younger and say you shouldn't tell them not to do it older, but you shouldn't tell them, period. It's up to the women. It's up to the man. It's the family. It shouldn't be a discussion on what women should do or not should do. It should be up to that individual. It is her body, his life. Them two together have to make a choice. And I like when you say we could guide them. We could tell them, hey, it's probably not smart right now to do that at this age, or hey, maybe you should do it later, or maybe you should do it earlier, if they want your advice 1000%. But at the end of the day, it has to be up to them. And that's it. I don't think there's a wrong or right way. And I think you want me to say that, but I don't think it's wrong or right to do it younger or older. I have friends who had kids in their late 30s, early 40s, and I had friends who had their kids younger. It's just people are so different. I don't think it's one way or the other.
But that was the second part, and the other side of the coin, in which I was that I wanted to get to, which was, we just tell them the bad part, but we don't tell them any of the good part. And I think that as a counselor, it's your job to give both sides. And this is what I don't understand. And this is why I say the things that I said, which was, why are a lot of women pushing mediocrity amongst other women? They're saying, no, go out and do this and go out and do that. And girl, you go have your hot girl summer, which I don't know if you know. I heard about this thing called a hot girl summer. And I was all like, well, okay, I'm old. What the hell is a hot girl summer? And this young lady who was in college, she says, oh, hot girl summers, you know, you go out and you build a roster. And I'm all like, well, what's a roster? What, you got a baseball team? What are you doing? What are you managing?
Come on. I think guys invented that term.
Well, I don't know. You got to realize I'm Gen X. It wasn't, we called that the hoe count is what we called that. So, you know, they changed the word. I guess it's a nicer word now. But, you know, when I heard things about a roster and stuff like that, you know, oh, when you go to college, you got a hot girl summer and you build your roster. And it's like, all that does is build trauma and drama. That's all that builds. And it's like, you can't sit there and say that we look and feel and go through life the same way. When men go through drama and trauma, it builds us as people. It makes us harder to deal with the life's ups and downs that we have to deal with in life. But that is not the same for women. Trauma hurts you and scars you. And drama just hurts you and scars you. So it's kind of like when you get to the end of your hot girl summer and your college years and doing all the, you know, the fuckery that's included in that, at the end, you may not be the same person, or you're not going to be the same person coming out that you did when you went in. But how is that supposed to be on a man to have to deal with the trauma and drama that you went through, that he can't talk about, that he's not going to talk about, because that just forged him as a better man, but yet has hurt you in ways that maybe we can't get through because you don't fix yourself. You don't deal with your own.
Well, the good news is you don't have to, but to say that it's good for guys and not good for girls is wild. I think promiscuity is just as detrimental to guys in different ways, not in the same way. Women are a lot more emotional. We know that. Yeah, we hold on to things a little bit different. I think men are more in their head. Of course, it's different, but it's still just as damaging. It's not your responsibility to fix us if we make that decision. It's not your responsibility to stick around, but it is our decision to make. That just is how the ball drops.
Right, but that's why I look at like women today in modernity. When I'm talking to some women in their late 20s, they get upset with things like, I heard this not too long ago. Like, why does body count matter to a guy? And this young lady was asking me this question, like, why are men so fixated on that? And I said, well, you know, there's a lot of reasons why. Like, for example, if you're a man of status, and you're working hard in an industry and you're trying to build an industry, and your significant other or your fiance or your wife is known by everybody, that could be detrimental to you as a person and hurt you in the perception in business. It could hurt you how people treat you. I said, you have to understand, it's a very delicate thing between people. And I use this as a tool. And I showed her this and I said, like this cup, what's in this cup? Okay. Now, if I'm at a table, at a round table, and I said, hey, you know what, here, I'm going to hand this cup to you, grab this cup and pass it to the next person, pass it to the next person, pass it to the next person, pass it to the next person. And everybody passes it around. And then it gets to me and I'm okay with drinking this, right? Like, you would be okay with drinking it because somebody passed you a cup from the other side of the table to the other, right? That, if we can picture that. The difference is, if I put my fingers in the cup and everybody around the table has put their fingers in the cup, would you still drink from it? That is the difference in how men look at things. We don't look at it from the perspective of, you know, did you date somebody like a woman who got married at 23 and got divorced at 27, but then you have a woman who graduated college at 22 and she's been out, not married and has gone through a relationship after relationship, and then she gets to 27. You look at that person a little bit different, and only because I have to carry, if I'm going to be with that person, I have to carry whatever she's bringing to the table. Whatever, if she had bad relationships, all of a sudden I got to carry that. And I shouldn't, and I agree with you with this. I shouldn't have to carry that, but I'm gonna carry that. And that's part of the
Only
problem.
if you want to. Not everybody has done that if it bothers you. I don't
Well,
think body count bothers every single man. I don't think every single man looks at it like that. And sorry, some of it sounds a little juvenile. In my head, I'm like, well, grow up. We're all adults here. This is not 1992 anymore. But if it bothers you, then you go and you find a woman who has not done that. It's very simple.
right.
And for being very simple, you're making it a little complicated.
Well, but this is what men see. This is the preference of men. The majority of men have this kind of preference. And when I talk about the disconnect, like some women have this thought, like, well, why do men have this preference? It's like, well, that's just our preference. Why are we villainized for our preference? Like, if I sit there and say, well, I want a woman who, I want a woman who is submissive. I want a woman who's, feminine, friendly, fit, and yet I'm looked at like, well, and I heard this term just recently. Well, you just want a pick me girl. And I'm like, what the fuck is a pick me girl? I'm behind the times. So it was explained to me what a pick me girl is, and I was just like, okay, if that's just somebody who understands who they want as a man and they want that man. So why is that looked at as a good preference? Because I hear this, when a woman says, well, I want a man who's A, B, C, D. And I know what I want, and I am, that's what I'm fixated on, and that's what I want. And I'm like, I'm good with that. But when a man wants something and he's, oh, well, I want a woman who's, fit, feminine, friendly, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that's what kind of shit is that? Why are men looked at as a villain for the things that they want, which is the same things women want? It's not any different. It's just we have preferences. But a man can't say his preferences because all of a sudden I'm misogynistic. That's another one that I heard, that I'm misogynistic and I'm toxic. And it's like, why? Why do I have to be toxic just because I'm asking for what I want? Just like a woman's asking for what she wants, but yet she's a girl who knows what she wants. Go, girl. But yet,
because for a very long time, or it does seem like, you talk about in generalities, it does seem like it's quite often about solely looks. Like, yeah, I know women who want money. I know women who want looks, but a lot of times women want connection, right? We're emotional creatures. Women want to feel something on the other end. They want partnership. That's, for me, I think, well, I know I'm super emotional. I think most women really need that, or the relationship's not going to work.
Definitely.
And it is a lot on the visual. We've already established that. So I think that, women are looks are hard for us. Looks are hard for us, especially as we get older, as we have kids. And I think we could build a little sometimes, especially if there's somebody cute out there, it could be hard as a woman. So I think it kind of generally comes from there. Oh, you jerk, because how can you not appreciate how beautiful every woman is? Every woman is beautiful. But if you like blondes, you like blondes. If you like small boobs, you like small boobs. Whatever you like is all good for you. I think we should make out, and I'm saying general you, not you, John, but I think everybody should make their expectations as clear as possible, so we don't have any misunderstandings, and then everybody would be very happy. But don't say you're comfortable with a woman and you don't actually like her, or you're hanging her on by a string or whatever. If everybody was just so bluntly honest about who they are and what they want, we would be so good.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct on that.
I got a bell. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, definitely, because you nailed it on the head, and and I can appreciate that because we're having an honest conversation, and and I appreciate the honesty in it, because here's what I do find with women that I talk to often: they don't realize that they're average or less than average looks wise, and they really have a hard time coming to that. They're like, well, wait a minute, and it's like, I understand everybody's clapping while you're on the way into the room, but those guys are clapping for you because they're just trying to sleep with you. That's what they're trying to do. And that's the truth. See, like, I have this
human nature.
Forget, I have this magic ring right here. And you know what this ring does? It allows me to be honest. Why? Because I ain't fucking interested in you. So when you ugly
I like
and
that.
you look like Quasimodo, I'm telling you, you look ugly and you look like Quasimodo.
Yeah.
But women look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm a 10. No. If we're scaling to 100, you're a 10. That's what it is. You're not.
Be nice.
I know. My wife tells me this all the time. She says, you make a great delivery is shit. I get it. I
agree. That's my girl right there. Yes, I agree. Great idea, but the way it comes out concerns me sometimes.
My delivery, I know, and I'm working on it. And with Albert helping me, I think we'll get it
Yes.
together at some point. Albert is really going to keep me on track, and my other guy Jackie, he keeps me on point about a lot of things too.
Albert's
But
got it. He's in the DMs. Like, hang on.
hey, I'm not letting you get away with this shit. And you know what? And he shouldn't. Nobody should. But
Yeah.
that's the problem that I see currently with a lot of women, because a lot of these women are, the word that comes to mind is gross. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about emotionally, mentally. They're gross. Like they act entitled. They act like they don't have to be even a hint of being just demure in a way that is positive. Like they just want to, they want to cuss you out. They want to call you bro. That's what, this girl was talking to this guy I'm suspecting was her boyfriend or husband. And she's all like, bro, what are you talking about, bro? And I'm all like, what? That's the craziest shit who talks like that? I don't, I would never think to call a woman that I'm dating or interested in, bro. I would never do something. How disrespectful is that? But that's where we are. I did on my, I did a review one time about women who were rating themselves. And this was on a podcast called the Whatever Podcast. And they were, and it's on my YouTube, they were rating themselves. And these are all college girls out of UC Santa Barbara. And these girls were lying to themselves. And it was like, I was like, oof, and she's all like, oh, I'm a 10 and I'm a good day on a 10. And, some days, when you look in the mirror, your some days are better than others. And I'm like, well, today ain't that day, sweetie. That's just not today.
Goodness.
It's like, stop, it's okay
We
to
shouldn't be having these contests at all.
Well, but that's part of being honest with ourselves, because look if you ask a guy, what do you rate yourself? Chances are he's going to say, I don't know, 4, 5, maybe on maybe if I dress up and comb my hair and, brush my teeth today, I'm going to be a low 5. But that's what most guys will say about themselves, because they understand who they are. But when women get, big upped on all of these things, like they're always told they're beautiful and they're pretty and this and that. Yeah, that's because that guy's trying to sleep with you. That's, you talk to a person.
I think it's the same thing as with men. You could ask one woman, how pretty do you think you are? And she's going to be like, I'm a 2 on a good day, because she has really bad self-esteem. You can ask the next girl and she's going to be like, I'm a 10. Oh my God, probably 12. It's the same thing. Anything, as with anything, you're going to get people all across the spectrum. And I don't think it's even primarily women who are like, oh, I'm so hot. I actually think women are highly insecure, and it's cool when you're 20 in high school and you don't, or college. It's wonderful. You're at your prime.
Let me ask you this.
Primarily, no, I don't think so.
You said this. She has low self-esteem. Maybe she just has clarity in who she is. Is that possible?
Of course, anything is possible. Anything is possible. An ugly person can know that they're ugly. Yes, for sure. But the vast majority of women, I don't think, are out there like, I am so beautiful. No. Most women are really struggling with their self-worth.
Well, think about what you just said. You said, oh yeah, a person who rates themselves a 2 or a 3, she has low self-esteem. That's already the presumption that she thinks she has low self-esteem. Maybe she's just being truthful. Maybe she's looking at herself saying,
yeah,
hey,
all things can be true.
I'm not, yeah, but I didn't hear you say that. I just heard you say the low self-esteem. And it's like, maybe they don't have low self-esteem. Maybe
they don't. Well, I was just giving you another option to you saying everybody is a 10. That's not true. But right, yes, that's another option. It's another story to tell, for sure.
But worst can't be first. And that's kind of how I say it. We can't presume the worst first. We have to take it as a neutral thing. And that's why I say when women have an elevated sense of themselves and they think highly of themselves, that's okay. It's okay to have good self-esteem. It's okay to have good confidence. But then there's a thing called reality. And then that's what smacks us in the face. Now, reality is you're not a 10. You're not part of the genetic lottery people, because we're just not. But like they have that saying, an LA 10 is an Oxnard 4. That's the truth. That's the truth. But those are things. And I think that's important to say, because the more honest we are with ourselves, the better we can go on and be better people, because we're being honest. And I feel that you're very honest. But do you tell women when they're like, doing their fuckery, and they're like, oh girl, they go out and you see them and they're wearing this dress or something, and you're like, damn girl, you don't look good at all in that shit. Do you tell them?
My friend? Yeah, absolutely. You mean a random girl? No, it's not my business. But if my friend sends me a picture and is like, what about this? What about this? Yes, that is my friend. And on like you just said it yourself, Michelle, I know you're gonna be honest. My friends know, do not ask me a question you do not want the answer to, because it will come and it will come in hot. And if I'm in a rush, it's even worse because then I don't have any time for hello, hi baby. You maybe could probably no, the answer will just be no, I'm sorry, I love you, goodbye.
And this is probably why we get along, is because
Yeah.
we fall along the same lines of being honest. Like I am honest with people, and I tell people, look, yo, do you want me to tell you the comforting lie, or do you want me to be honest with you? And most people are like, tell me the comforting lie, man, because
Yeah.
sometimes you burn me a little bit too much. And I just want to take a shout out to my girl Christy. Christy is a coworker of mine. She's awesome. Love Christy. And that's the thing that I feel is important. Big John, Ben Tirado. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you, Ben. Some of the things that I have a problem with, and I wanna get your I need your opinion on this.
Okay.
When why don't women? I understand you do, but don't you see sometimes when women lie to other women and you're like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't be telling her that? Do you say it? And let's say you and your friend are hanging out with one of her girlfriends, and you don't really know this person that well, but they saying something that's, out of pocket, or they're saying like, maybe I want to dump my man because of yay, or, I'm going to go out and, I don't know, I'm going to do some fuckery or something. Do you chime in, or do you just let that be because you really don't know them like that?
If I'm in the conversation, I'm in the conversation.
Good. See,
I will bring it up. Yeah.
This is why I like talking to people like you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've talked to quite a bit of people at this point, and you're in a small minority of people that speak like this.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Most of the people that I talk to will sit there and continue that fuckery. They'll be like, oh yeah, this 23-year-old girl who's having a hard time working, is thinking about opening an what is it called? OnlyFans. And they're like, yeah, go girl, you can make good money off that. And I'm just thinking like, the fuck? That's crazy. Don't ever, because see, that shit's forever. And
yeah, absolutely.
Your significant other, who you like, admire, and respect, is going to be like, chances are, is there outliers? Of course. But chances are that guy's going to be like, nah, I can't be with you because of this. And that's a preference, but I try to tell people, look, better to go struggle with a job that do something that you openly can't have your parents or your grandparents look at. That's fuckery. We can't do those things because that hurts you in the future. Like, you doing at 26, don't get me wrong. You're doing what you want to do at 26, but just remember at 28, 29, if you decide to start settling down with a guy and you walk into a room and 7 dudes know you in the room and your man is standing next to you, that's a bad look. And chances are he's going to be like, no, thank you. And I mean, am I nailing it on the head, or am I wrong?
Did they go to an OnlyFans party together, or how did this happen?
Well, think about it. If you just walk into a room, if I walk into a room, I'm putting in the world of hypothetical. Think about this. If I walk into the Christmas party at work and I invite my girl, and there's 30 people in the party and 7 dudes know who you are intimately, yeah, I'm sorry, we ain't working out. That's just not going to happen. Now, is that wrong? Would I be wrong as a guy to think like that? In
You're
your
allowed
mind?
to think whatever you would like.
No, but in your mind, I mean, I'm asking you.
My mind, I wouldn't care. I mean, women deal with it all the time. We have to deal with seeing guys and girls trying to chase them and be in the same room, and the cattiness. We've had to deal with it for years. So should I think that you should have a big issue with it? No. Like I told you earlier, like to me, it's like a little bit of like, okay, grow up. Like if I did that, I did that. But it's we're in the present. Also, we're old enough to now say, oh my gosh, there's 7 people in here that I've been with. Is this making you uncomfortable? We should probably leave. There's just another answer to the question.
And And this is what I try to tell men. This is just my viewpoint of it. And it's like, look, if the number doesn't bother you, that's you. And
Yeah.
I can't tell
If
you
it does,
who.
I get that too. I totally do. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it's about you and your preferences and what you're going to put up with, because these are things that can affect you, especially at work,
Yeah.
especially in your social life. These things can affect you that way. And you have to be mindful of that. And see,
Yeah.
this is why I tell, and when I have this conversation with women and they sit there and tell me, well, that's not really a thing. I said, look, uh, Kim Kardashian is considered a very beautiful woman that nobody wants to fucking marry. Why? 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 Because she has hoe tendencies. That's what it is. And you can't be around that. That's something that men of status, because that's who she dates. She ain't dating bums. That's what men of status prefer. So think about that. How can somebody be considered one of the most beautiful women in the world and yet can't lock down anybody? She ain't getting cuffed by no one. And anybody who tries to cuff her can't handle that. Why? Because they ain't putting up with that fuckery, because she has this stigma around her that's just never going to go away. And that's a tough thing, right? I mean, and this is a woman who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She has status, and see, that's where men and women look at the world differently. I could care less what you do. Doesn't matter to me. I'm on my path. I got my money. I'm doing my thing. And I don't really care what you do. That's not if you got a master's degree, I could care less whether you got a master's degree, and it doesn't mean a damn thing to me, because I'm going to still move in my way. Am I proud of you? Of course I'm proud of you. But it's not going to change my viewpoint of what I bring to this house, because I am who I am. And that's what's important to me. And I look at yours and just look, if you make more money than me, it doesn't mean that you're better than me. It just means that
Right.
I'm still providing and I'm still protecting, because that's who I am. And I understand that, because the majority of us men, like I like to say this, I was a high 5-figure earner. I was not a 6-figure earner, but I'm a high 5-figure earner who understands who he is. Now, when I walk into a room with other lions and they can make more money than me, and this is the money, muscle, game, and frame, I understand that you make more money than me, but I don't bow. I understand that you may be more physically fit than I am, but I don't bow. You may have you may have certain traits about you that I won't bow to. I'm going to eat because I know who I am as a man. And that's what I try to tell young men today. Not all of us are going to be 6- and 7-figure earners, but that doesn't negate who you are as a man, as a 5-figure earner. It doesn't negate who you are as a man. It doesn't mean that you're any less, and it doesn't mean you deserve less from a woman and a wife. You don't deserve less. You still deserve the same respect, admiration, and love. And that's what you deserve as a man. And I don't think that your status, I don't think that your money has a lot to do with it, but it helps. I ain't gonna lie to you. It helps. Being a high 5-figure earner, I earned just enough to know that I had, I didn't exactly have fuck you money, and I definitely didn't have fuck me money. I don't know. I heard that term. Fuck me money means I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, despite whatever happens to me. Fuck you. I have that much money that I'm willing to say fuck me on this issue. But I had enough money to know that I commanded respect in the places that I walked. I was respected in rooms that I've never been in, and I was talked about by people I've never met, only because of who I was and my solid foundation and my frame as a man. And I was respected that way. And I felt good about that, because I felt like maybe I'm not going to achieve the 6 and 7 figures when I was working, but I received the respectability from other people who respected me and the things that I said. So, and that's where I think that I try to tell men, look, it's not all about one or the other. None of us are perfect on every level, but we can accentuate the attributes we have in each one of those pillars. We can be good, moral men who have strong foundations, and we can push forward and help other men achieve bigger and better things. And that's where my role is. That's how I feel my role is. But I want to get to a point with you and opening your mind, because I want to see what's in there. I kind of know what's on the outside, and I know what's on the surface, because you sassy. And I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind you sassy. That's good. But what what do you think your son? I'm going to give you a scenario. You said you had a son, right? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know how old your son is. I don't need to know. I'm just going to give you a scenario. Your son does whatever it is that you and your man want him to do. He's a strong, solid person who does right, has a good moral compass, and does and represent the values in which you hold and how moving forward. And I think we agree on a lot of those values. Now, here's a choice for him. Your son has worked very hard in what it is that he's doing. You know, let's say, just hypothetically, let's say he wants to be a doctor. So now he's going to be a neurosurgeon specialist, and he's graduated and his business is up and running, and he's, you know, in his 30s, and there's two women in his life that he meets, and he hasn't necessarily committed to one or the other, but he wants to commit. His first choice is the 23-year-old barista at Starbucks, or a 32-year-old mother of three, two different baby daddies, divorced twice. And he says, Mom, not sure which way I want to go. What advice would you have for your son?
How old is he again? You said 30, so he's dating an older woman and a younger woman at the same time. I would tell my son that
not older. He's 30, 35, she's 32.
Okay, he shouldn't be dating a 23-year-old. That's my first advice. But if he's as far as picking between the two, I mean, I'd have to see them together, because that's what matters most, is the connection between the two. How do they get along? And if they agree on morals and values. How is this person? Have you guys been in a fight? Like, you need to know all of those things. You can't make a decision based off of their job and their age and how many children they have. That says nothing about who they are. I would think my son is silly for dating a 23-year-old barista.
I'm baking it into the question. We can get to the the other points, but I'm just baking it into the question. There's a 23-year-old barista. He likes her. She likes him. There's a 32-year-old mother of three, divorced twice. He likes her. She likes him.
If he liked one of them enough, then he wouldn't have. It wouldn't be a conversation. He would know who he wants to be with.
You don't have any advice for that. Not, hey, you know what? Maybe.
Oh, I just told you, like, who I would want to know who they are at their core, and need to see them together and how they work together and how that would work out. Is my son at that age even ready to be a stepdad? Because if he's going to be a shitty one, that's a hard pass. So, like, there's so many things that you have to consider. You can't just answer that out of the blue. And I was a single mom before I met my husband, so I don't know. I think that single moms obviously have like a lot to offer. So does somebody young with no kids. Absolutely. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Let me see if I can clarify it and boil it down a little bit more. All things being equal between the two, they both get along. They love and admire and respect your son. All things being equal, with the exception of the age and the children and divorces on one side, and the other is a clean title, for lack of a better word. If all things being equal, would there be a preference just from you looking at the outside? There wouldn't be a preference?
No.
Okay. You know, I find that a bit disturbing in a little ways, for this reason. I would have to say that a person whose past discretions or indiscretions play a lot of who we are moving forward. I'm not saying people can't change, but chances are, if you're a person who's been through relationships, and for whatever those relationships, they didn't pan out or didn't work out, but it shows a pattern, right? and this is where I think that's most important for men, and this is what I tell men. Look at the pattern of people's decisions. If their decisions are not consistent with who we are, like if you get into a relationship, you want to be in a relationship, you want to have a relationship with somebody. And I'm not saying, I am saying, I always tell men, nothing against you or anybody else who has kids. If you worked hard to where you want to be, and you've worked hard, you have decisions to make about your life. You can be with somebody who is, and I'm not saying that this woman is, but I'm using this as an outlier. You can be with somebody who has had drug issues, and they're great people and you get along and you love each other, but you have to look at those issues moving forward. And that's why I tell men, look at things. If you've done the work, and even if you haven't done the work, you have to look at people's history. And that's where I try to tell people, look at the history of people. I'm not saying that people are bad. My sister,
but you haven't even given the 23-year-old child a chance to have failed relationships. So you give me like an impossible choice. It's such a weird question.
23-year-old.
No, you said if my son was dating a 32-year-old with 2 kids and like a barista that was 23 years old, I mean, what relationships does she have time to even go through? She's still a child at that point. But I don't think that failed relationships are an indicator that you can't be successful. There's a lot of things that come into play in a failed relationship. It's not just one person. There's clearly more than one person. So that's an interesting take.
But if we say that on an average, people who do things consistently, now whether it's good or bad, we can say that. Are there people who pull up and pull out? Yes. Is there the 20-year drug guy who pulls out and then never touches another drug again? Yeah, of course. Are there people that, is there the felon out there who has, a couple of felonies and he's done a lot of criminal acts that can straighten himself out and never have another problem with the law again? Of course. Yes, there are the extremes in which people do things and they never have to go back to those things again. Yes, I don't disagree with that, but they're outliers. And I try to talk into the general of it. People,
right?
And that's why I'm saying, when we look at things, preferences, when you look at preferences, we try to make the biggest decisions based on risk mitigation, right? That's kind of how we look at life. I'm not going to jump into the pool if I don't know what the fuck is in the pool. I'm going to look. What is that saying? I don't know if your parents told you this, but my mom used to tell me this all the time. You don't jump over the fence without looking what's on the other side first, because you don't know what's on the other side of that fence. So those were the risk mitigations that I grew up with. And that's why, I try to tell young men, look at your risk mitigations. Look at what that is. Weigh these things out. Now, as a father, if my son were in that situation and he worked himself up to a situation that he was doing good for himself and all that other stuff, I would say, okay, you have to look at it from a risk mitigation. You have one side that probably hasn't made good decisions. Now, you have to look at what those decisions were, right? Like, if she kept picking trash, is she now picking better? Did she suddenly move forward and change, things about her that took her out of the trash picking, scenario? Or
is your son trash?
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's what I mean by saying, what are you? Who are you? And what are the people that you're surrounding yourself with?
Sure.
And that's why I say that's your frame. Having a strong frame means that you have a certain tolerance towards certain things, and you're going to keep people around you, right, who deserve to eat at your table. Those are the people you're going to have eat at your table, right?
Absolutely.
But that's why I always say, if you show me a guy who's got 3 bummy friends, it's because he's the 4th bummy motherfucker. That's why. And the same thing for women. If this woman is hanging out with, and I'm saying by guilt by association, if let's say she hangs out with her friends and they're hoe-ish, chances are she's a hoe too. That's kind of what it is, right? Birds of a feather flock together. Isn't that what we're all told? That's who we are, right? We all hang out in our groups. So we got to figure those kind of things out. That's why I say risk mitigation. Who is that? You show me success and you show me who you are by the people you hang around with, right? What is it? Good, upstanding people don't hang out with criminals. They don't go together. So that's why I think that when we tell young men, or at least I tell young men this, I want to know, how come women don't say the same thing? You know, I'm hearing it out there, and I hear you when you say you do, but do you encourage other women to call out other women's fuckery?
That's their own growth process. I think that's a hard thing for people to do, and people have to be really really honest. Women make and people in general, I think, make a lot of excuses for bad behavior, justifications in their brain about why that bad behavior should be allowed. Well, I could do this because that happened to me, which is not true, and that's the entire premise of what makes you a good person, is doing the right thing regardless of what has happened to you. But I think that's a lot of that's over a lot of people's heads. So the justifications
Unfortunately.
is where we go wrong, and we're like, yeah. So they
And
feel like
I'm going to give you
they're a
something.
good person, but
I'm going to give
I
you
don't
something
know
here,
about all that.
because you know that you did. You did. And like my guy points out, Ben, he points out that people learn from failed relationships. Now, yes and no. You know, people can learn from failed relationships, but are they learning from those failed relationships? For the simple reason is that, you know, I used to tell my kids this all the time. I don't expect you to be perfect children. I just don't want you to do the same shit over and over, because that means you're not learning. So if I tell you, hey, there's a bunch of shit on the floor over there, don't walk over there, and then you walk over there again, it's like, I'm going to help you clean off your shoes from what you stepped in. But after I clean off your shoes, if you go running into the same thing again, I don't know. I'm going to start saying, what, you know, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you do it again, then I start going, what are you, stupid? What's the matter with you? You know, but that's how I always told my kids, look, relationships, you got to understand where you are and what you are in a relationship. And if you ever tell a woman, if you're too afraid to tell a woman that you don't agree with something, that means that you're not strong enough in the relationship. And that's not a
I
good thing,
agree.
because that's not love for her. That's you not
Correct.
loving her, you know. And I think that a strong man who's strong and confident in himself in that relationship will say, no, I don't want you to do that. And I've heard this, and you tell me whether you agree with this. If a man tells a woman, I don't want you to wear that, we're going to go to this place and I don't want you to wear what you're wearing, it's too much skin or whatever the case may be, but I don't want you to wear that, that means that that man is insecure. Do you agree?
No.
Yeah, to me, I think that's love.
And my husband helps me get dressed a lot if I'm going to shows or things of the like, because I want to be appropriate and I appreciate his opinion. Okay, I work for a church. We got to dress one certain type of way. I work with kids. We got to dress one type of way. But I also am a performer and a singer. Sometimes it helps to dress some type of way, you know? So you have to be mindful of where you're going and the audience appropriate. And my husband's opinion should be the most important opinion. But let me also say that it's because I chose correctly, and I choose a man who respects me and my voice and what I want to wear and how I like to look. And he's okay with my lines and boundaries as well. So let me say that.
Damn, girl, you just dragging him up. Who's dragging him up? I'm gonna do it again. You know, that's, and I'm so glad to hear you say that, because, you know, I find that being like, when I talked to this young lady at work, you know, she was like, I asked her, whose authority are you under? And she was like, what? I said, you got to get past the word. I'm not saying that somebody is telling you what to do, but I'm saying that whose authority are you under? And she's all like, I'm under no man's authority. I'm under my own. I live by myself and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, you're under your father's authority, right? You have a good relationship with your father, right? Yeah. You take advice from your father, right? Yes. Well, until you have a man, that's whose authority you're under, because he's giving you advice, not to hurt you. He's giving you advice to help you, just like your man would. If you love, admire, and respect your man, you have to be confident in the fact that he's not going to tell you something to hurt you. He's telling you.
It's like a trigger word.
Yeah, yes, that and submissive. And I was like, what the fuck?
I don't like either of those either.
Why?
I'm going to get you a thesaurus. There's a better way to put that.
You know, I don't understand that. I mean, Michelle, I don't understand how we take a word and just move it into something that it's not. And it's out of respect.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something. Now here, I'm going to go in on this. Do you believe, and how am I going to put this? Do you believe that women are a man's property?
No,
No.
no.
Is a man, okay, first off, let me ask you this. Do you see that as a negative or do you see that as a positive comment?
Question? It's a negative question, in my opinion.
Negative. Got you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, negative question. Okay. Can you name me something that a man is willing to die for, that he's willing to put his life on the line for it? Can you name me anything?
Like an item?
Yeah. What are men willing to die for?
Oh, I don't know. If you ask me, my husband's willing to die for his dog and his sisters.
His what? I'm sorry.
His dog and his sisters.
Okay. But he's also willing to die for you, right?
Sure.
He's willing to jump in front of a bullet. He's willing to put you out of harm's way. And if that means his life, that's what he's willing to do. But a man will also defend his property. He will defend what is dearest and what is most important to him.
Absolutely.
Now, that's why I say, when I say it this way, which is, are men, do men look at women as their property? They're willing to die for you without a second thought. They're willing to jump into the fire to make sure you're not there. Now, we all use the word property in this particular sentence and question in a negative way. We think of it as a negative way. But to me, I think that that is the utmost respect that a man puts you in, because he's willing to die only for a few things in life, a few things, and you're one of them.
And that's a nice way to spin it. But when people talk about a woman being a man's property, they're talking about control. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about abuse and control. That has nothing to do with the fact that I do believe my husband is willing to take a bullet for me. 1000% I do.
Yeah.
But he also is not going to control what I do or what I wear or things of the
Never said
like.
any
I'm
of
not
that.
his property in that sense. He doesn't tell me where I can or cannot go. His opinion is always important, but I'm my own person. Well, I know you didn't say that. I'm just saying, when people hear that word in reference to men, property and women, it's because they're immediately thinking about that part, the control.
Mhm.
Property does have, I mean, I don't want to be referred to as an item. Well, I think we went offline.
Yeah, I swear. We're almost at the end here. I swear.
That's so funny.
But I did hear the last part, which is, you know, we
To
give
me, it's offensive to be referred to like an item, in my opinion.
and you know, and this is where I say we give words things that we're not giving words to. Never said any of those things, but we all hear that, right? Like we hear that in our
Absolutely.
heads, and we hear, like, just like submissive. Submissive has been touted as a bad thing. And it's like, well, what do you mean? We don't even ask, what do you mean by submissive? Now, if a man is willing to die for what's the most valuable to him, valuable. Now, think about that. It's not how I'm spinning it, it's how I'm saying it. And this is where we need to get off of some of those things, because you correctly assumed something that it wasn't. And it's like, I understand what
Well,
you're
you
saying.
said correctly assume something that it wasn't, because if the assumption is there and you already know it and you say it anyways, that's a lack of respect, because you know how it would make me feel and you said it anyways.
But I
So
wanted to invoke that emotion in you, because I
sure.
wanted to show the flaw in the thinking. And what I mean by the
Mm,
flaw is you assumed E, F, and G to something that I only said A, B, C. And you just added things that weren't there. I never said it, and I qualified it by calling it what it was, which was, this is how a man looks at something he's willing to die for. He's willing to something that's inherently valuable.
that's great. That's great that you feel that way. It's not the way that it reads or comes across, and it's not the way that it's received. And that's what should be most important. Because
That's
if my husband loves me and respects me, he does already know that that is what that means. And I'm sorry, but again, I don't want to be referred to as an item either. I'm not an item. I'm a living human being who stands next to you every day, holds your
understood.
hand when you need it. So
Understood.
it dumbs it down to an item that what you bought at a store or you picked up at a Walgreens. Like I'm a what? And so that the word in and of itself, there's a lot of problems around it. Not just that you mean it some way differently. That's
Right.
great that you think that. It's just not
Right.
reality. And
Right.
we've talked about reality a lot today.
Well, here's the thing. We can't put words in. We can't inject words where they don't belong. And this is why I'm saying that. You assuming 10 other things that never were said. And I even gave the qualifier for what I was saying that said absolutely nothing to any of the things you added to it. This is what I mean by what you heard the message to be, not the message that I was giving. And this is the part where I was trying to tell what when I talk to women, I try to say, listen to my message, not my tone, not my approach. Listen to the message. Now,
Okay, but I love you with my whole heart, but that's not a message, it's a trap. You knew exactly how I would take it, and you did that on purpose. That's not
yes,
a message, that's a trap.
yes, I
Let me
did
be
it.
perfectly clear about that.
I did it because I wanted to show two things. One, I clarified what I said and I gave the qualifiers to what it was that I was saying. And yet you didn't listen to what I said. You
Well, you
assumed
said that man won't die for property, but you want me to be okay being called property.
it,
I'm
I
so
said,
confused.
but I also said things that he holds inherently valuable to him. That
There's no
you are
property items that my husband's gonna die for.
no.
Like my piano, or like what is he gonna die
Well,
for here in this house?
if somebody's breaking into your house to steal your property, your
I'm probably
husband
not
isn't
gonna die
willing
for
to
it.
do that. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, well,
No, if somebody needs our TV and they want to steal it, they can most certainly have it. I'm not setting my husband down to get hurt by somebody. No,
well,
that's silly. To protect me, 100,000%. If somebody's coming after me, I do believe that for sure. But
well,
I don't believe that my husband's dying over a computer or anything. No,
if somebody's trying to steal your purse, you're good with that, right?
I don't. Yeah, I mean these
Okay.
days.
Well, like I said, people have a different thought about things, and I'm just saying that. Look, inherently valuable things to me. Now, my house is valuable to me, the sanctity of my house. If somebody breaks into my house, now, whether they want to steal the TV or whether they want to harm my wife and kids, I don't know the difference. All I know is that you're breaking into the sanctity of my house, and that is precious. And I'm willing to fight that person.
Right, that's protecting your family for sure,
Right.
1,000%. That's not the
But
same thing as calling a woman property.
but see, but I need you to make, and this is the part I want to try to connect with, which is that is inherently valuable. That's in his eyes. You're valuable. Like, for example,
Yes,
um,
I am very valuable. Absolutely.
right, and that's what he holds valuable. And
Sure.
men don't die for just things. Like, look at he's not looking at some guy, rob a toothpaste, toothpaste from the store and go, yeah, I find that
Correct.
valuable and I'm willing to jump in front of that. No, he holds you valuable. Now,
Hmm.
I just want to take property and just use the
Just
word.
remove it entirely. Just
No, no, no.
remove it from your whole lingo.
I want
Just
to add,
remove it. Throw it out.
you are the most valuable thing, and he has a chronological order of what's valuable. Now he holds you and your children and his sisters at the top of that chart. To me, that that is an honorable thing for him to hold you so high. And I don't think that you would respect somebody who, if you were getting robbed or beat up by somebody, he runs the other way. You ain't respecting that. You're going to respect the fact that he's going to be there to defend you. Now, that's the part that I was saying. All the other things that you said, which was, I don't want to be this and I don't want to be that. That's not, I never said any of those things. And that's why I use the word, because I
Yes,
want
you
to hear.
use the word property and try to relate it to something else. So I'm going to circle it right back around. Yes, you still keep using the word property. Women are not property. No.
Well, but that's
Regardless of how you want to spin it, we're not property. No.
but this is what I'm saying. Men are constantly told how to speak. Men are constantly told how they should be tone policed, how they should approach and how they can do this and how they do that. And that's part of the problem that I see in relationships when I hear people talk about how they feel something should happen, because they feel it. And it's like, if I tell you something, but it's not my message that's important, it's my tone. It's how I approached you. It's the word that I said. And it's like, can't we get past what how we feel about a word, and then listen to what the word is and ask first, like, hey, what do you mean by that? Instead of running off into the weeds about what we think that means. And that's the conversation that I'm trying to bridge, because we don't have that conversation. I mean, look, us here, for the most part, we pretty much agreed on most general things. But yet, as soon as I said a word, it was like I was on the opposite team and I was saying something that was harmful when it wasn't.
It is harmful. It's
Well,
very harmful.
how would you
Yes,
consider it
it
to be
is.
harmful if I'm telling you what it means?
You're telling me what you want it to mean for you and how you would like for me to interpret it. And that's unfortunately just not how words work. Property is an item that belongs to someone. They own it. They can sell it. They can throw it away. They can give it away. That's what property is. Women are not that. So you want to say, let's not get into the weeds. Let's talk about what it actually means. That is what it actually means. Now, if you want to talk about what it means in society, that means control. And that's why I brought that up, because that's what it actually means to society. It's okay that you have another idea of it or that you want to spin it, but that's not what it means right now.
Well, right now, no, that's what it means always.
No, that's not true, because words are ever changing. Words have different value over time as things happen.
Yes.
We give them value, right? We give them value. Yes.
Yeah.
Albert says I get a bell.
Well, you haven't finished the conversation yet. But that's I'm sorry, I'm doing something real quick here.
Okay.
That's why I try to say, look, when we use words, we can admit, and you alluded to that just a few seconds ago, things can change over time. Mm-hmm. Now, property is something that's valuable, right? Somebody deems that property valuable, and that person takes ownership for that property. Now, that's a term that's used as far as the meaning. And that's why I say, if I use the word, I want to hear what your reaction is to the word. Even though I've given the qualifiers and I said exactly what this means and how I'm framing it and saying property doesn't mean I own you. Property means that I hold you valuable, and I'm willing to say that this value of you is like, this is part of me and this is my ownership of owning this value.
But John, just because you came up with a definition for yourself, it doesn't make it true.
No.
That's what you want it to mean right now in this moment in this conversation. It's just not true.
Well, here's what we have to look at. We have to look at what it is that we all think of words, right? And here's the definition of property. It says it does not accept responsibility, the loss or damage of club member personal property. Both it's talking about clubs. I'm not trying to get to what golf clubs are. The owner of more property, South Coast. That's not what I'm talking about. Damn it! I wish I could bring up the
property. A thing or things belong to someone. Possessions collectively. No, it's okay. Here's the example. She wanted Oliver and his property out of her house. Notice those are not the same thing. Those are two different things, right? A person and property. Those are two entirely different things. Yes. Women are not property. Property are not women. We cannot be one or the other. And we can't be that way just because you want to change the idea of what it is. We're just not that. We don't want to be called that. And you keep trying to get us back to that, but it's never going to be okay.
Well, I mean, I understand that there's a problem in understanding in which way that is looked at, but we can surely say that your CD collection and a bar of gold hold different value, right? So the chances of somebody stealing your CDs, you may not have enough emotion into those CD collection as you would something that you would hold more valuable, like a, like a bar of gold, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the distinction that I'm talking about. What is inherently valuable and what you perceived as valuable is how much effort you're going to put in the protection of it. Can we agree on that?
I don't know.
No, you can't. Okay, I'm having a little trouble trying to figure out how to cross that bridge. If you hold something valuable, more valuable than something else, you're willing to be more emotional about it. Can we bridge the gap there?
Sure.
Okay, so if we hold something valuable in a monetary sense, to me, this is monetary. This is something that I feel very emotional about. We can say that that is vastly different than a bicycle or your CD collection, right? You as a person is different than the bicycle and the CD collection, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
1000%.
Right. So if I hold you valuable, and that's what the word I'm concentrating on, the value of something or someone to me, I'm willing to fight just as hard for my gold as I am for my wife because they're valuable.
No. Value has two different meanings. One is tied to monetary, like you said, which is money, and the other is tied to emotion and our connection. Those are two entirely different things.
You mean
Yes, they
monetary
are
is
both
not emotion?
valuable, but they have different meanings. One is tied to money, and yes, one is tied to emotions or connections or your relationship.
Well,
Our
think about it.
relationship, you can't like charge for our relationship. Our relationship has nothing to do with money. He values our relationship
Yeah,
because
you
of my
can,
brain,
of
because
course.
of us, because of our love, because who we are. But value to an item has to do with money. That your gold, it costs 100, or it's worth $100,000 or whatever. Those are
Right.
different two value structures. But
And
yes,
well, they're not.
valuable.
They're not, because divorce shows us that it's not. Divorce is actually something that shows you that love and relationship is valued. There's a monetary number to love in that relationship in divorce,
No, we can
right?
try, but absolutely not.
It is. It is. That's why people lose 50% of their assets when they go through divorce. But
Yeah.
we can argue the semantics of it, and that's the part that I'm stuck on, is the semantics of it, because I think that that's important in a conversation, semantics. But that's why I'm saying property to me is not this pair of glasses. Okay, I don't see my wife the same as this, but
Correct.
this is mine. If you try to take this from me, I'd probably slap the shit out of you for trying to take it from me, because, well, these are my glasses. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna be different if you try to take my wife.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm gonna see it as different. But
Yep.
both are part of me. And this is, I have an emotional connection to things, obviously less than other, but that's why I'm saying that's how it's looked at from a perspective. If I zoom all the way out and I say, okay, what's important to a man? Well, there's things that are inherently valuable to him, and a wife is valuable in a
As she
man's
should
life,
be.
as she
Yes.
as she should be. But that's why I'm saying, if I were to say it in a word that is most triggery, and I know you're saying, well, this way you're trying to spin it. I'm not trying to spin it anyway. I'm just saying we have a connection, an emotional connection to everything, and money included. The money in the safe is very, very important. But do I see it as important? I mean, I'm probably going to run into a burning house to save my money. If I got a whole, cash load of money in the house and it's on fire, chances are you're going to take a run at it to try to save your money, right? Why? Because it's emotionally, you're emotionally connected to that money also. And that's part of what I was trying to say. Wasn't trying to, I wanted to start a fire with you to see where you would go with it. And that's why I said, I want to use a word that doesn't mean, and I'm putting it that it doesn't mean that, but you took it there. And that's why I was saying,
I don't know about that.
I just wanted to hear the conversation from you. Like, I just wanted to hear you say, hey, what do you mean by that? And I think that that's important in conversations, right? Because if I say something that gets you mad and you're saying everything that I didn't say, but not repeating what I said to you, then we're having two different conversations. And that's
Oh,
why,
very much so, I think.
right.
Yes.
And I think that that's what's most important between people in relationships. Just because you feel some way, even if I said it right or wrong, I think that we should clarify. And if we can move forward in that in a hot topic, then that means that you'll listen, that we'll be able to work through any topic, right? Because it's hot. And if I can't work through it in my head and give you the best case scenario and explaining and walking the extra 3 miles and saying, no, this is not what it meant. It meant A. Like when I talk about submissive, I'm not talking about you bowing to me. I'm talking about you being able to listen to me and respect what I'm saying and hear me out. So this way we can have a conversation and not be hot to begin with. So that was my point in saying that word, because I just wanted to see where the fire would go. And I love the idea that you push back so hard on that, because
Yeah, I'm still going to say it one more time out loud. Women are not property.
but that's the hot topic I think that we need to talk about. We need to talk from a hot space.
Yeah,
And
but what's the rocket science behind it? It's just we're not property. We don't like to be called that. Can we understand that and move on from it? It's just that seems to be a very basic respect that we can have for each other. Not even just women. It just seems to be geared towards women. But yeah, women don't want to be called that.
you know what, this is what I used to tell fighters when I used to coach boxing. If you can't hear me in an easy fight, whenever you get into a hard fight, you'll never hear me. You'll never listen to anything that I'm saying. So I want to talk about a hot fight. Why? Because me and you right now understand each other better than we did before I said that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what I think is the most productive thing that we can do.
And powerful.
Yeah. Because you know what?
Yep.
I've gotten you to understand that, hey, I'm trying to say A. And then you're saying, well, wait a minute, but that's not what I heard you say. I heard you say this. Okay, but I didn't say that. And then you're like, okay, yes, I understand what you're saying now, but I didn't hear you say that, because this could mean A, B, C. You didn't say it, but this could mean that. And I'm like, okay, but that's not what I meant. I meant this, and this is as far as it goes. It doesn't go any further. It doesn't go into any other area. It just goes into this. And I think that is a great conversation to have, because it brings
everybody learns.
Yes, exactly. We get to move 4 feet forward instead of 2 steps back.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that about you. I love our conversation here today.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It has been a blast talking to you, and
yes,
I want to talk to you more, because there's some other subjects that I want to hear your mind open about some of these other things that I hear, and I'm like, I go to Darla sometimes, and Darla's like, I can't hear that one right now. You got to give me a minute. And I'm like,
I think we'd have so much fun with it. I really do.
I do. I appreciate your time. Michelle,
thank you so much.
Can you please let us know, where can we find you? What are you going to do?
Oh, yes.
What's happening?
Michelle June. You can follow me on Instagram at Michelle June Music, at MichellejunMusic, at Michelle June Music on Instagram. I'm working on my second original song right now called Broken and Backwards. So I'm also producing my own concert, going to be happening at the end of this year. So I'm excited about that. I've got a show coming up in June, and I do have shows coming up in the next few months, but just follow me on Instagram, and I'll keep you all posted there. But thank you so much for having me, and everybody in the comments. You guys were so much fun, and I really had a blast.
You are amazing. Michelle June, thank you for coming on. I hope to talk to you real soon. Please hang out, and I'll get back to you in a minute. Let me go ahead and close it out. Thank you very much. And that was Michelle June. Let me tell you something. What a wonderful, feisty, love it kind of person. She is awesome, and I love the pushback. And we may have some things there. And Albert, when I get back down to Oxnard, I'm talking to you, man. Me and you, we won't talk, bro. Nah, I'm joking, man. I appreciate everybody, for hanging out with us and listening to what we got to say. Excellent conversation. I appreciate, man. We actually went way further than what I wanted to, but I couldn't stop talking to Michelle. She is awesome. And please follow her. Find out where you can see her, because let me tell you something. I have seen her, and she's very entertaining as a singer. What a great person. We're doing our thing. I appreciate everybody. Ben, thank you very much. Emilio, thank you. And Christy, I appreciate you guys coming on. please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Go to us on the YouTube right here, because we're going to start kind of pushing toward doing live stuffs on YouTube, because the meta for Facebook, they're changing some of their things, and I just want to make sure that I stay in good with them and I don't get blasted out from them. And also Instagram. So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody. Please do me a favor. Smash the notification so this way you can be alerted as soon as we drop videos. And always remember, everyone is entitled to my opinion, and that's why I freely give it. I appreciate everybody. You guys take care.
Must change.
Yeah, straight out university, the syllabus begins. Check the complex method that separates the men from the kids. We building with 4 pillars. Study the architecture, the lessons in the verses, not just the lecture. See the mind for the money, the muscle is the proof. That global frame is wisdom from the concrete to the roof. And the game is pure knowledge that defines your every action. A strategic satisfaction for a chemical reaction. It's a blueprint for power, not just a simple acquisition. The formula for greatness, a scholarly position. Straight out university, yeah, the lessons in session. Straight out university.